the map veto system and see exactly where we're going to end up playing today, as Chaos is going to ban first. Then it'll hop over to Mockit, back to Chaos, and back to Mockit. And as you can tell at the bottom, both Border and Clubhouse are locked out. So we'll end up going to one of the non-maps in Coastline being banned first. Like you said, one of the highest played maps in all of the rotation so far. Consulate is up next, and we can just blitz right through this with Oregon joining in. That's going to leave us with Bank and Villa. A lot of times people thinking, well, Villa is going to be that last ban. Survey says Bank or Villa. Bank's the one out, so we are going to see some Villa action.
So the bans from Chaos were purely defensive. They lost Oregon twice. They lost Coastline pretty definitively as well. So this is them saying, we know what we're not comfortable with and we don't want to go here. The Mockit bans, on the other hand, you could say are a little bit more targeted. They haven't played either of those maps yet so far this season, and it just seems like they're trying to poke holes in their opponent as much as possible. That makes a lot of sense in a map veto phase when you have the team that's at the disadvantage who are trying to play defense hardcore, and the team who feels like they're in a superior position, they can just do whatever they want with it.
Yeah, the last time we saw Mockit play on Coastline, it was 6-3, and they defeated Chaos on that map, right? Yeah. So, of course, as you said, a very defensive ban. Now, we do have a whole host of Villa that we've seen from these teams. Chaos in DreamHack Montreal played it once. They beat Mouse on it 6-4. Mockit played it when they were known as Orgless against Vitality in the regular season of Pro League. They actually defeated Vitality on Villa, so that's 2 wins, or that's 1 win for both these teams, 2 wins in general. And then Mockit, actually, the last time we saw them compete on it was against FaZe when they were still known as Orgless at the Paris Major, and they lost a very tight one in which it was 7-6 in favor of FaZe. With all the roster changes to Mockit, and of course maybe a bit of confusion, I am interested to see what the community thinks of this particular matchup. Chaos has not really been a team that seems to have always found their footing with that community, and despite the changes and despite the fact that there's new members to Mockit's roster, it's going to be 58%, with actually quite a high number of people who think it's going to end up being a draw. That might be the highest that we've seen in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, that's a pretty substantial number there, 14. But you know, the Mockit clearly taking the cake there, and I think it stands to reason. The expectations might be you're not really sure what that team is right now. For some of the people who also have been voting, as you said, a little bit of confusion going on with all of the movements of the orgs and the teams and even the rosters. But this vote does make sense to me. I mean, Chaos has been having a pretty rough season so far, no matter how you look at it. Mockit, on the other hand, have been doing decently despite all of the roster changes. So, yeah, this seems to be in line with expectations. However, so was the vote C9 versus Mouse, which was 15% for Mouse to win, and they managed to take that. So anything could still happen.
Yeah, and I mean, even yesterday, every single team that was the underdog ended up winning the community vote. And not just did the underdog win the community vote, but they won all their games as well. You know, as Devin explained to me yesterday, we got that we got the triple. You know, we got the hat trick on it, where it was, you're the lower seeded team. Okay, well, that's currently Chaos. You win the community vote, which Chaos hasn't, but you still end up coming out with the win. So that's 2 of 3. We'll see which one winds up with Chaos versus Mockit here. So, but we have Villa set for you, and we'll be launching in to the wonderful Italian coast, as technically our newest map, as Hereford base is not in the Pro League rotation. A map that has seen its pick rate steadily increase, but still trying to feel out exactly the way that this map is going to play. And bans, of course, are very consequential to the ability for teams to defend or attack. A Mira ban in particular makes 2 of the most common sites on Villa less defendable, and she's usually a staple of the bans. But Chaos is going to take Maverick out first.
Maverick is definitely a sensible ban on Villa. There are so many walls that you just have to pay attention to, and can easily be exposed to the attackers if you don't. And the fact that he can open up those reinforced walls with no noise whatsoever, it really leaves you in a bad position if he's on the table. The other new operator being taken out too, Clash, along with Lion, a very typical ban. Looks like we're going to have none of the brand new stuff here played in this match. Mira, the final ban, again, we're talking about typical, and that certainly is. And that'll be the end of the ban phase.
Yeah, unsurprising to see Mira get taken out on Villa. It's amusing to me because she has a profound impact on almost every single site. There's very few sites in this game where she's not important. Most maps have a number of opportunities for you to play Mira in different ways. But Villa has these large, sweeping soft walls. They have lots of room for reinforcements. There's lots of vertical destruction. Mira is an important staple of a good defense here, and we haven't really seen much of Villa with her active.
Yeah. I mean, on this map, it's hard to even reinforce all of the walls that you need in order to just have a fully hard site. I think that's one of the bigger things with Villa is they like, it seems to have been designed with soft destruction and just general, horizontal play in mind. Interestingly, we don't actually see a whole lot of pressure usually applied to the bottom floor. It's another thing that this map is kind of unique in. We see that actually somewhat reflected on Border as an example. Border, of course, only has the 2 floors, but usually that bottom floor doesn't see as much play, or it used to when it was first coming out. It sees a little bit more now, but anyway, the point being here is there is a floor that is wholly ignored on Villa, and that can open up a lot of soft destruction options if it's further explored later.
The exception to that winds up being your Zofia or Ashe. We saw a couple teams running Ashe on Villa in particular. This is a big map, being able to sprint in and find a very quick path towards the site. Or you use the Ashe from below and just have the Ashe use the breaching round, open up the floor, and then sit there and put as much pressure on the site as they can. Speaking of those team skins earlier, here you have the Type 89 being run by Vale. You got the Phase skin on, so one of the brand new, Phase Up, one of the brand new of the 10 community skins.
It definitely looks pretty fantastic.
It's very sharp.
Yeah, as most of them, I mean, I think honestly, all of them really do. Not usually much of a skin guy, but hey. Now, Mockit starting to apply a lot of pressure from the west side. I think this is something that's pretty typical on Trophy. You need to use a lot of these easy access opportunities like that window there to cut off rotation of the defenders so that if any of the roamers are coming home trying to default back to site, then they get caught in that fire and end up dying. Corey downstairs doing some damage, and he will take out Crips. He looks for another fight, probably on to Secretly. Yes, indeed. He's playing the Pulse. He's definitely the right operator for the job of a roam downstairs, but it seems like Mockit are keen on hunting him down.
And it looks like the way that they're going to roll out, Baka Brian is going to be on that secondary entry with the IQ, so doing utility work, but also with the Zofia of Rips, allowing maybe Rips to play a bit more conservatively instead of having Zofia be one of the primary points of focus for your attack. Of course, Corey on the Ashe is going to be as pure as you're going to get an entry fragger there, and I would imagine that Baka Brian is going to jump in too when need be. So, but successful job for Mockit as they'll get that first kill, as you mentioned with Corey. So,
now Baka is a very calm person at I think at a baseline level, but this is, I think, his newest or his very first Pro League match. So there's something I think to be said about that. He's going to need to explore a little bit and find his groove. And speaking of, he will get his very first kill there onto Red Groove. Funny how that works out. Also a somewhat new player to Pro League, but he will be dispatched.
And he'll be using the AUG on IQ, which is not exactly a gun you see all the time. Now, when we see Rogue playing IQ, we see a lot of times with the LMG being trotted out, but Chaos will find their very first kill as Corey will meet the Alda head on and lose that battle. You've still got Baka from downstairs just baiting the Pulse, and he'll hit Secretly, but just in the shoulder and the neck and lose that gunfight. Meanwhile, the Thermite of Chaos from above, inside a statuary, in sight. Holding that diffuser could possibly go for a plant here, but will we be able to spy Rips seeing renewals? We will. Rips gets that kill, and as Rips waits for Secretly to flank up the stairs, Mockit will take round number 1 over the Swedes.
A complete collapse there onto the site. Not really much to talk about. Honestly, it just seemed like Mockit positioned themselves in a complete circle and slowly tightened that noose. Chaos unable to slip free. And also, more importantly, I think, outside of that, downstairs, the roamers were fervently hunted by Mockit and leaving no opportunity to use the vertical play to their advantage. So great job there by Mockit. A little bit of a missed opportunity from Chaos due to all of that distraction.
All right, so we'll see Trophy yet again and what can be changed this time around for those teams. It looked like it was a 6th pick at the last second, but I think they might have missed it. It looked like Secretly was trying to get off of the Pulse, but unable to do so. a very similar composition on both sides of the board that we're seeing shape up here. And a lot of the way that Mockit played that, and played it so well, was they were able to pinch both those roamers early. You mentioned both Crips as well as Red Groove falling to Corey and Baka Brian. And then that left the Pulse of secretly playing downstairs. At that point, you've got 4 bodies from the attackers that can begin to exert their pressure over Snookin and Renewals. And
10 seconds remaining.
Smoke isn't able to take those long-range fights as reliably, I think we could say, with the SMG-11. Now, you could still tap fire and burst fire with the SMG-11, but you can't hold that sustained fire the same way because of the recoil on the SMG-11. That forced Renewals to have to be the one to take those longer range fights, which he did. He had an ACOG on the LMG, so that's not a problem there for the Alda, and he got the kill that he needed, but at that point, I think the numbers advantage was just way too high, and as you mentioned earlier on, all those big walls that you can open up, the soft walls and the hard walls, there's just too many angles for the anchors to be able to watch when you're down in numbers.
Looks like a roam clear starting from the south balcony here from Mockit. Chaos well positioned to slow this down, if nothing else. We've got some players playing an Aviator and over by the gun vault. This will be detected by the drones and then later affirmed thanks to Rips' use of that lifeline. Good positional control starting to be established here. Corey doing his typical roam hunting downstairs. You're going to see that Pulse of secretly go all the way down to the basement. Again, this is the floor that we just don't see a whole lot of use from. Usually, if anything, it'll be for the defenders to do very deep rotations through the map.
Yeah, it's a very useful avenue for them to be able to try to get back to site undetected. A lot of teams won't always commit a flank drone or somebody on flank watch towards that basement side of things, but you've got Secretly, who's now inside of Piano Room, sees a body, and his C4 will manage to get Rips. That was the Zofia who was just kind of plodding along above, and Red Groove there will continue as Chaos will get 2 kills as Chaos falls. That was Diffuser down as well. The singular most important Heart Breacher. It's a very early bit of action here, as now Crips will find one as well, and that'll be 3 kills for Chaos being added in quick succession. Make that 4 as Crips finds yet another, leaving just Corey to retrieve the Diffuser, and one of the newer members have to go into a 1v5. We'll see the Legion as Red Groove does pre-fire him. Corey misses his shots, and then will continue to miss as Crips doesn't miss his at all. It's a 3K for the Bandit, and you'll see Chaos be able to answer back.
That pulse roam downstairs is what started the cascade that ultimately resulted in Mockit's defeat. The roam clear from Corey was just not sufficient. He was unable to find the Pulse, who simply walked his way downstairs. Good job to secretly avoiding that clear. And then as soon as Corey figured out his mistake, it was too little, too late. He started trying to hunt down secretly right after all of his team had died. So, good roam from the Pulse, and overall solid defense from Chaos. Interesting, we have a Cav 6 pick off of a Pulse here for secretly and Chaos as a whole. That is a little bit odd, though we have been seeing Cav used, I guess, a little bit more lately. She's an operator that's not great for her utility. However, what is fantastic about this operator is that she has 2 impact grenades, and more importantly, the Illusion there does 99 damage. Now, granted, the pistol has a lot of damage drop-off. Past about 10 meters, you're basically shooting BBs. But if you can work it to your advantage, just take engagements at close range, Cav is absolutely lethal.
I feel like we saw Cavera and DreamHack Montreal use twice just over last weekend in the Mouse Core game, in which both teams ran her. I know Vertical, I believe, ran the Cab, wasn't able to get anything with it.
Paris Major, as well as is often referenced. We saw Giannis playing on
and got
Cab.
The interrogation on Bank as well.
Yeah.
So not a bad use of her gadget, but yeah, as you said, Cav doesn't really add anything to the team that you can't get from other operators. But Secretly, who was on the Pulse before, has really been favoring Wine Cellar in the basement, once again going for a deep rotate. And if they sense that Mockit is playing really loose and sloppy with their entry, as speaking of entry, Corey's able to pick off the Bandit, who did so much harm to Mockit last round. He won't be available to them this time, as he's killed within 40 seconds of this round even starting.
Yeah, speaking of loose and sloppy, that wasn't just a wide peek.
But Baka does end up getting spotted by Secretly, but not able to pull off an interrogation, obviously, because two of Baka's friends nearby in the bathroom, both the Thermite of KS as well as the Ash of Corey. Now in Astro, trying to hunt down this Kavera. Now, Cav is a 3-speed, no faster than any other operator, but she does have this ability to deep lurk and through the dining room.
Thanks to that.
Serenaded.
Thanks to that silent step. Does not have to worry about giving away his position thanks to sound. Also, if there were a Jackal, wouldn't have to worry about that thanks to the removal of the footprints. But it's not going to be relevant in this round. Has managed to find his way into the flank. The question is, will the flank be watched? And when will Secretly choose to push? It might be a little bit late. He's going over to the main stairs. He's actually going to come up behind a lot of these Mockit players. If nobody's watching, this might be the perfect opportunity, but Secretly is taking a little bit too much time.
You've also got KS watching at the top of the stairs, that long angle into the B doorway, just by the model. So we'll see if the Cav will be able to get towards the stairs. There you go. KS is actually going to rotate out, so this might actually give the Cav of Secretly an opportunity to work up those stairs. It's only the Zofia of Rips there. And some impact tricking going on to try and stop that exothermic charge from going off. They'll manage to get some of that wall, but that's a Frankenstein. That's a Frankenstein breach hole. I don't know if they'll be able to make it through there at all. Well, it's like Frankenstein's monster. It's all.
Yeah, no, I got you.
It's no sense.
It is a very wonky hole, and it will not be easily accessible to Mockit, which is going to force them into a lot of these other bottlenecks, like this doorway here. You can see that the fire coming from the bar from Renewals is going to take out Corey finally after many a pre-fire. KS will respond on to Snookin, so the smoke gone and no gas canisters in the dying seconds of this round. That's a big kill for Mockit, but it might not be enough. We still have Secretly on the roam. Renewals takes out Vale as well. Rips, though, able to respond, and what a turn from Rips. He managed to take down the flanking Secretly, leaving just Renewals in a 1 versus 4. Or 1 versus 2 after he got the first 2 kills on that entry. KS will shut him down. It would have had to have been a 4K from Renewals if he wanted to take the round, but it was not to be. A little bit of a slip of the tongue there. I apologize.
I mean, 1v2, 1v4, it's all the same.
I was thinking in my head is like, he's going to need a 4K. And
numbers don't lie. I'm a number 5.
Oh, okay. I don't know that reference.
It's okay. You'll get it. Somebody's going to get it. Somebody's going to catch that reference. It's very obscure.
We're going to share with the class, Parker?
I'll tell you about it later.
Gonna load it.
It's from Clone High, a great animated series.
I've never watched that.
Share with the class. I ain't teaching anything.
Okay. Well, that was a nice attack from Mockit. Ultimately, put into practice a little bit too late.
Now, you could see the way that the Cav affected Mockit's play. Mockit had to execute so late. A big portion of that is because you had to commit at least one person to permanent flank watch, because you're not going to let a Kavera sneak up on you when you're not looking, because, as you noted, that gun does so much damage that she just needs to land a couple shots on 2 or 3 people, and you've managed to win the whole round just because nobody is paying attention. And one of the things that Villa has working in its favor is not only is it a very large map with lots of rooms, but there's a lot of flank routes that you can go through. There's 2 staircases in particular. You can head to the left or the right when you get to the top. And if you're not manning those staircases, very easy for Secretly to possibly get the jump on you, surprise you, and take you down. And Mockit had that hesitation. You could see it in the way that they were playing, much more reserved because they didn't know where the Cav was coming from, and Secretly didn't emerge until the final dying seconds of the round, and that was when Rips was able to pick up the 2-piece and then go for the plant while KS watched.
So now, Mock going to have to attack onto the same site once more. We've seen this before, I believe, where... Actually, I apologize, not the same site. They have managed, or I'm trying to find out here, they have rotated over to the... Actually, this is a site we don't see very often. I'm honestly not sure what to call it, Parker.
It's living room, so it's got the living room downstairs. We haven't seen a ton of it on display. It's been the least played site here on Villa so far. If you go back towards some of the things in Montreal, you'd definitely be able to get some information on it. Look at Secretly! How is he gifted that second kill? He'll get rips, which is deserved, but then Baka maybe not so much, as the Jaeger just appeared to be hip-firing through the wall and picks up a double kill in just a minute in. That's huge, taking out the IQ and the Zofia early on.
Yeah, what a play from Secretly. As I was about to say, I mean, I personally have never actually casted this particular bomb site ever before. So this is something new for me. Secretly is going to get a 3K and a 4K as well. Oh, geez, going for the ace. He's but one away. Vale, the final string of life here for Mockit. He's going to be inching his way into the site, but stuck between a rock and a hard place. The Jaeger potentially behind him in the hallway, and the site ahead with the barbed wire in front of it. Renewals is actually on his drone right now, so this could be potentially an easy push for Vale if he seizes the opportunity, but he's got to be careful. He does have some opponents to his right as well. He's found the hole. He needs to exploit it, but Renewals will shut him down. Vale eliminated, and Chaos will take the round upon rotating to the different site. All thanks to Secretly's 4K on the roam.
Secretly pivotal in 2 rounds in a row. Wasn't as effective in round number 1 as Pulse in round number 2. Did a little bit better. 3, of course, having that prominence on the Caveira, being able to just manage that time so well. Almost all of the tempo of that round was controlled by the fact that they were fearful of a possible sneak attack from the spooky spookster of Caveira. And then, of course, Secretly also just getting a 4K on that round. So he's making his presence known, and even though Chaos didn't win the round previously with Caveira, it's kind of hard to throw a round where you get a 4K to open things up, because those are all technically within the window of an opening frag.
They didn't win the round with Caveira, but that was not the fault of the Cav. That was definitely...
Oh, no, not at all.
Yeah, that was definitely, I think, more to do with the actual anchors. Either way, Mockit unable to put 2 together, and they will be now tied up as a result. Secretly, the real standout here for Chaos, as we've just talked about. Now they're going to be going to Kitchen, so they've gone to every site now in their first half, and they're making sure to keep the attack nice and diverse. Mockit going to have to adjust their strategies a little bit to account for that.
Villa is still very much a map where we don't have a consensus on sites. We don't have a consensus on attacker versus defender. It could be one of those maps similar to Border where, you know, attackers and defenders can win and lose. Same with Oregon. There's only a couple maps that are definitively defender or attacker sided, and a lot of times that really depends on, is Mira banned, is Thermite banned, is Hibana banned? All right, cool. If it's one of those 3 banned, or 2 of those 3 banned, or even all 3 of those banned, as we've seen in 1 or 2 occasions when both hard breachers end up getting banned at the same time, has a dramatic impact on the way that a map plays out. So we'll continue to monitor exactly what goes on with Villa. As you said, we're on Kitchen House. They've run through every single site. Kitchen is typically a site that you anticipate that the defenders will do well on, but the biggest problem is the fact that a lot of teams will just bulldoze in through that kitchen doorway, especially with a smoke strat, which is available for Mockit. They have the smokes on Baka Brian if they need to use it, but a lot of it usually hinges around a glass. And there's no glass, there's no Ying, and there's no Lion. So it'll be obviously a bit of a slower pace played here by Mockit.
They have taken a whole minute to clear into the master bedroom, which is a lot of time, but they're being as cautious as they possibly can. They know they have some opponents playing over by Astronomy who are just starting to fall out. Red Groove actually going to drop through the opened hatch and work his way back up the Astronomy stairs to try and support the Bandit, who is playing inside of Trophy itself. Very dangerous position, and he's being flashed and marked. The coordinated assault here from Mockit will net the kill, thanks to Corey's excellent gunplay and to the coordination of Mockit, which will prompt, of course, Red Groove to fall back.
That was 2 drones that you saw, a successful entry for Ash. Of course, Ash is always a frightening operator when entering, but when equipped with 2 to 3 drones as escorts, usually expect the operator to walk away with a kill there, and the defender's not really having that much of an option. Now, interestingly with Villa, it is one of the maps where Ash actually sees her utility used to do more than just clear barbed wire, opening up possibly holes in the floor or even walls that are adjacent to the site. Snookin has taken some damage, by the way, and not quite certain exactly how the smoke got pressured. Secretly, we'll find Corey as the Ash tries to move out of that statuary room. Rips is now tagged up as he's inside of Statue, but he's lost almost half of his health as well. Secretly will smartly retreat back to site as the first logic bomb will go down and force everybody to have to silence their phones. They'll give away and ping away at the position of all of the defenders.
Yet again, a very slow attack strategy here from Mockit. Only 30 seconds left and still a 4 versus 4. They're going to just now start working their way into the side entrance room, the laundry room. Just exactly as you were talking about earlier, this is a pretty typical strategy, but it's being employed so late in the round, it might not work.
No, and you saw that one wall being banded, it means that they're going to have to go through another avenue. Baka will finish off Red Groove, and Vale holding this angle inside a pantry. Goes for a kill in the kitchen, but secretly and Snookin get a pair themselves. Chaos trudging through the smoke will have to go for a plant, but he's fighting with the furniture. He'll just plant in the middle of the room as he's the only one up. Baka will get taken out by Secretly once again. And Snookin pulls out the shotgun and will finish off Chaos. A show of mercy as the Thermite was mid-plant, giving Chaos the first half and a score of 3-2.
Solid defense. I really appreciate it that Chaos chose to rotate from site to site to site. They did not stick it out too much. They did in the first 2 rounds. So they lost Trophy and then went to Trophy again, but that managed to result in their triumph, an absolutely dominant round in Chaos's favor. So either way, good half from Chaos. Mockit also had some pretty solid strategies, but towards the end of that first half, they started to slow way down, and it cost them a lot. Caution is important, and when you're dealing with the pretty chaotic roam from Chaos, I did not mean that, but it did happen, you should be cautious, but it was just a little bit, it's too much. You need to have time on your execute.
Your jokes are absolutely punishing.
See, I just didn't think
Too
it
bad
out.
you made it.
I didn't want.
You did it.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Why are you apologizing for making a pun? They spice up the broadcast.
That's your thing, Parker.
It's our thing, Michael.
Okay.
This is a partnership. Secretly breaking double digits, by the way.
And Vale without a kill.
And Vale without a kill. And I think it's pretty safe to say that the addition of Corey and the addition of Baka have not been to the detriment of Mockit, especially Corey in particular. I mean, his job is to largely get kills on entry. It's not going to be using his gadgets or his resources to try and take advantage of the site or open things up for the rest of his team. I mean, we saw him even doing that as Ash, using both those 2 breaching charges or breaching rounds to open up the walls and the floors to try and aid the rest of his team. But Corey and Baka have done a pretty respectable job, given the fact that they're both somewhat new to the roster. Baka being much more new than Corey. Corey has a couple games under his belt with them, but still, an impressive start for both these players. And this is Baka's, if I recall correctly, this is Baka's very first Pro League match ever, and that's a lot to put on the shoulders of somebody.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're right as well. And you're right. It's a lot to put on his shoulders. He's going through a bit of a transformation right now as a player, and we've seen this happen a lot of times, going from, to be honest, one of those guys who plays the Go4s, they play the Community Cups, and they play a lot of ranked, and they go from what, is lovingly referred to as, the ranked star sort of mentality into like a proper, competitive player. Baka's definitely got what it takes, but that transition's going to take some time, and, we'll have to wait and find out if it will be successful or not.
Right, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because Baka has had the chance to play with Pengu an awful lot. They're almost inextricably linked in competitive gaming as they play on a bevy of Go4s together. They're routinely stacked up when they play unranked, whenever Pengu is streaming in particular. And I think that's been a pretty successful way for a lot of players to be able to get into the scene. I mean, look no further than Super on Rogue. His big start in Rainbow Six Siege came largely because he was playing alongside the likes of King George, Macy J, etc. on stream in ranked and performing very, very well. Now, of course, he did play competitively in previous Rainbow Six, but that's really not the point here in regards to this game.
I mean, if you want to go far back, well, we'll touch on that later. We've got a minute left in this round, and it's a
just
5
we'll just
on
pause on
5. Yeah, just for a moment. It's a 5 on 5 with a minute left. We were talking about how the attacks were pretty slow from Mockit, but now even more so seemingly from Chaos.
It's a good crossfire established by both Red Groove as well as the Blackbeard of Renewals. Renewals holding that window on The balcony just waiting to see if the utility from Red Creek can flush out the Jaeger, and Chaos will be able to net 2 kills on this entry as Rips and Vale are down. That's the Legion as well as the Bandit. Baka is there, and he just pulls out that MP5. He's going to forego the ACOG, one of the few guns that does have access to an ACOG. He's going to pick up at least another kill before he's taken swiftly down by Renewals and Snookin jumping into the action. Chaos last man alive yet again against Snookin and Renewals. That Buck Blackbeard combo, and he's going to have to fight against a diffuser. Looks the wrong way. Snookin is positioned by the bar, crouched just outside of the sight of the Maestro, and Chaos will extend their lead as it's 4-2 in their very first successful attack.
I was going to say, if you want to go far, far back, Cantor Raketti actually was, I think, too young when Pro League started out, and he played with a lot of the Finnish players, but he mainly played ranked. And he had to go through the transition of jumping from being a ranked player to being a professional player. And it was a bumpy road for him in the start. Eventually, though, he started to get that traction. And now you see him playing for one of the most prominent teams in the entire world. So there's definitely a lot of potential there. But it is a long road. Now, Trophy Room is the next site here for Mockit. So they're not going to stick it out with Aviator. It did not work the first time. They're not going to try it the second time. They're instead going to make that rotation happen.
Aviator is a very weird site in competitive play because it's outside of Pro League, it is the most widely played site for most people, but it really hinges upon having a Mira available for you. And of course, with operator bans in Pro League, and Mira being a given, especially in EU Pro League where she has the highest ban rate of any region, it's not likely you're going to see her in action to try and help shape the defense for that site, which means that you have to go elsewhere. It's a big reason why we've seen Coastline in particular move from that Penthouse Theater site upstairs, downstairs into Kitchen, because Mira is so pivotal as a defender in helping the rest of the defense win the round. But over here in Statuary Room, as a lot of us will call it,
or just statue.
Well, statuary.
Okay.
Yes, it's different, but
sure,
you can call it statue, I suppose. Astronomy Room right next to is called Astro by shorthand by most people. This site is typically not bad for the defenders most times around because your clear is going to largely rely on 2 things. Number one, you're going to need to take control of the stairwell right by the site. And then number 2, you're going to need to take care of Master, and then you're also going to need to take care of Master Bathroom, which is where the drone secretly is right now. If you fail to do either of those things, then that puts the defenders in excellent position to just block you out as you try to make your push through one of the doorways or possibly through the hallway, which once again, just a small little doorway for you to have to go through.
Speaking of doorways, we've got Snookin starting to push his way over to Master. Yet again, though, we're seeing a whole minute being expended just making your way into one of the periphery sites. Now, the grenade will very likely, if landed correctly, clear out these bandit batteries. And yes, indeed, it has been placed in the right position, which means the Habana is going to be able to open up the wall, give you some great sight lines, and thanks to the Blackbeard, can pretty much dominate those Excaros holes.
The defense trying to go on to cams here, trying to utilize the Yokai and the Maestro, which you can see as the rest of the defenders, even if you're not the Maestro or the Echo, and they'll have to silence their phones. Worth noting that Chaos has only been running the singular hard breacher, whereas Mockit was employing both the Thermite as well as the Hibana. So Thermite being unbanned means that you have those giant walls, as we mentioned earlier on at the start of this match, that the exothermic charges work so well. Biggest problem is, of course, impact tricking. Villa has a lot of those, what would they be, like 5/6 walls where they go 5/6 of the way up the wall, and then you have the little banner at the top where you can throw an impact grenade and possibly blow up the exothermic charge on the other side. That's why you typically do see a bit more Hibana being run. First kill is going to go to the Blackbeard of Renewals. Back up Brian as the Echo will be removed from action. Chaos and Rips both very, very low on HP, but they'll endure for the time being as both Corey and Vale from Mockit will be able to pick off the Hibana and the Dokkaebi, leaving an advantage in favor of Mockit, but it will be equalized as Chaos. Very, very low on HP. He'll be removed, meaning that Rips, with just a fraction of his HP, will still be up. Relying a lot on Vale and Corey to stay alive. Vale will find kill number 2 under Renewals, and it's Snookin and Red Groove left. Snookin, though, will put the C8 to good work. Red Groove will get torn to pieces by Rips. Snookin will need to clutch here, but doesn't look the right way. Literally looks the right way, but it's the left where Rips is positioned. Actually, no, it looked like Rips was to his right. There was a good crossfire there, as you could see. It looked like it was the Legion of Vale that was in the room next to him. So it was a good crossfire. They both able to do some damage, but the kill went on to the Bandit on the right.
Either way, ultimately, an unwinnable situation there for Snukin. As soon as he peaked, it was pretty much a loss. Definitely some potential opportunities for him elsewhere, but it just was not to be in that round. Now, Chaos still have that that lead of 1 round, being in 4-3, so they're 1 away from getting themselves a draw, if nothing else. And Mockit, on the other hand, still fighting back for a potential retake of that lead. Now, Mockit has not been able to win more than 1 round in a row. They won the very first round, then they won the third, and now they've won all the way here in the second round of the second half. But they haven't been able to put 2 together, which means this might not really matter that they managed to get that victory in the last round, unless they can keep this ball rolling. Because if Chaos wins this next one, it's pretty much over. Your chances of getting a win are done. Now they're going to be going over to the kitchen, so similar to their opponents, they will go to a large variety of sites, which I appreciate. And that means that they have a decent strat book on this map. Seeing as it's so new, there are still some teams, maybe not in Pro League necessarily, but there are still some teams who are struggling to bring this into their own meta.
It's a risky spot to put that because you've got the wooden panel behind it that can be broken and then you lose the Evil Eye. A part of the strategy behind placing down Evil Eyes, for a lot of people that may not know, is that if it's put down in a destructible environment, such as the wooden panel there on that cabinet, if you shoot the wood around it, then the Evil Eye goes as well. It's very similar if you put it on a soft wall or onto a floor and you just shoot the wood around it. You lose the gadget, even though it is technically bulletproof.
There's only one potential saving grace there. It might be one of those wooden panels that's a little bit harder to destroy, though I don't know. It could go either way. I haven't tested that one personally, and as you said, it's a risk no matter how you look at it, because it is, easily could be a lost Evil Eye.
Oh, look at this line of sight that's been opened up here onto this cabinet.
Very clever.
Very clever. Looking to send out another grenade in, possibly. But no, Snukin misses it.
See, we talked him up.
It's going to deal a lot of damage as Snukin sustains some minor injuries from both of his frag grenades and doesn't quite succeed in what he was trying to do. So not just some of his resources squandered, but also the fact that he takes some damage in the process.
Yeah, that was definitely our fault for attributing credit to the angle itself, but he still has it, and it will actually cut off a lot of rotation in kitchen. Should it be used by any of the Mockit players, it could be some pretty easy damage put down. Now, another slow attack coming from Chaos. They spent about a minute and a half just trying to establish angles. Meanwhile, Mockit continued to peel, looking for opportunities to just kite their opponent, and they've done a pretty decent job of it.
Corey's going to confront the buck here from below, and he'll send it straight up. It won't hit Snukin, even though Snukin was injured earlier on.
Yeah, so very unfortunate there that the C4 did not hit for Mockit, and that's going to allow Snukin, now the buck, to do a lot of damage vertically. Renewals and Secretly will get the very first kills of the round, but Corey responds in kind, taking out Secretly as he pushes into the site. It's not all over for Mockit, but they are definitely the ones up against the wall here.
And they still have Rips above, trying to hold the main site, or just above the main site in Trophy and Statuary. Snukin making his presence known, no aggression whatsoever from the Bandit of Rips to try and take out the buck. And they'll just give Chaos an even bigger advantage in terms of numbers. You've got 2 roamers now. As Corey had to retreat to site, Cripps is there, pulls out the C75 and says so long, the former Movie Star Riders member, leaving just Rips. And he's been playing the entire time upstairs. Hasn't exactly been providing the aid that I think his team would want. He's not even going to be able to get a kill. His struggle in vain, as Snukin will be able to get yet another frag. Playing above this buck inside a bathroom will give Chaos match point.
So the trend continues. Mockit unable to win 2 rounds in a row. Chaos able to put it up to now 5-3. That is a difficult hole to claw out of right now if you're Mockit, and Chaos are in a great position to just lock this out for a win. They'll be going over to Aviator as this was the very first site that they defended. They were unsuccessful in this attempt. They'll try it once more. That last round, it was interesting from Mockit. They had, as you said, they had rips on that roam pushing upstairs. He just didn't do anything. He applied a lot of pressure, but Chaos did not take the bait. They simply waited for either A, the rips to push into them and die, or B, for him to just linger and waste time. All the while, Chaos was focused on using the control that they had to their advantage, and they did just that. As the vertical pressure was coming out from above, the push from Chaos into the site absolutely decimated the front lines of those anchors. And it was a pretty easy cleanup from then on.
It's funny that you call the anchors the front lines, because in most setups, yeah, they're not. They're your back line, right? But because of the way that the roam from Mockit was played out, it forced the anchors to be the ones to take the first fight. And those are not ideally the people you want being in the tussle for that first engagement. You want Rips to be one of those people, rather, taking that fight. They didn't do it successfully, and as you said, Chaos just bypassed the Bandit, didn't even need to worry about him. It looked for a second there that Red Groove was going to try to engage him. He fell off, ended up rotating down towards site, then they just left Snookin upstairs with that skeleton key, and that was it. Rips in particular was not very aggressive to try and stop them.
There are three really decent strategies you can use. Two really decent, one okay strategy that you can use for roamers. You can hunt the roamers, which involves putting a utility, time, and effort of your players into hunting down a roamer. You can isolate the roamers, which is what we just saw Chaos do, which means you take the control that you want out of the building, and then you just point a barrel, anyone's barrel, at where the roamers could potentially come from. And then there's monitoring the roamers, which is a little bit more dangerous. It's just where you get information, but you don't necessarily point a barrel at. All the while, I'm trying to explain this, Chaos is going to get a double kill from Astronomy, but Crips from below with his own double kill. The C75 doing some work there for him, and Vale will take out Snookin as well. So Mockit in the driver's seat, thanks to that double kill from Crips, though. Chaos is not totally out of it.
KS exchanged roughly about, that's confusing to say, a KS and Chaos. KS will exchange about 75% of his health to take down the Blackbeard, which is a pretty worthwhile trade no matter which operator you are. Of course, he was the Castle, so not exactly an impactful operator in the latter half of the round outside of pure fragging potential. Managed to pick up that second kill before he got traded off himself. And then, of course, as you said, Crips pulling out that C75, which has seen a surge in play after the SMG-12 changes. That's the other sidearm that's used by Dokkaebi. So you've got the C75 there instead. Funny that Dokkaebi would have two semi-auto or automatic sidearms. And
she didn't until just recently. She only had the one for a long time.
What?
I'm making a joke, Parker. Nobody used anything but the SMG-12.
Oh, it was a joke, Michael!
My humor is a little bit rigid.
Sometimes it eludes me. Anywho, you saw an impact trick there, which will keep the wall safe inside a vault. That is great for Mockit, who are trying to fight for a draw. It's the best that they can get secretly inside of that vault. And he's just going to see if he can flirt against Baka, but Baka will be able to get the kill. Once again, running the shorter sight on the Echo, eschewing the ACOG, running with a red dot. A double kill for Baka. Brian will put us on to our final round between these two teams. Possibly a draw. Will we be able to see Mockit complete the comeback?
Well, they're certainly trying, just an inches away. One more round, 3 minutes will decide whether or not they manage to take out that draw, or if they go home with the win, or rather the loss. So, Trophy Room Statuary as the next defense here for Mockit. They have gone here before, and it is a site that they were successful on last time they attempted to hold it, which is definitely what they want in this situation. But yet again, I will state, they have not been able to win 2 rounds in a row. Mockit, for whatever reason, once they get a little bit of steam, cannot turn it into an actual forward momentum. So they're going to have to change that here, and now you can see a lot more of an even scoreboard here for Mockit, and on the other side, Chaos have some individual standouts. a big point here for this defense on Statuary Trophy is that there is no Thermite being brought by Chaos. You touched on how they have chosen to instead just bring the Habana, which is going to allow them to open up a lot of those angles that they would want from Master, for example, into Statuary. But it won't allow for easy rotation, as you would get if you had a Thermite.
Yeah, and then of course a big part of why teams don't bring that Thermite is because that impact tricking is, which is when, those that are unaware, we've used the terminology quite a bit. It's essentially when a defender has an impact grenade and they throw it at the top of a reinforcement that has been opened up, and it blows the exothermic charge or even the X-Kairos on the other side. There you go, perfectly showed. The reinforcement doesn't go all the way to the top. I think it's called like a 5/6 wall or something like that, because it's 5/6 of the wall is covered by the reinforcement. See all these sites that are being opened up? You can throw an impact grenade at it. It'll blow up the hard breach on the other side.
Yeah, so the ways to avoid that, of course, is you bring a Habana and you open up prone level, or you bring a Thermite and you Thermite the floor next to the wall, or you bring a Maverick and you just torch it anywhere. He just kind of bypasses all of the potential counters for hard breaching.
Maverick being banned, this is of course a great map with a lot of great sites for him too.
Yeah, this is a really smart ban. I think Maverick not being on Villa is going to help both teams, really.
Oh, absolutely. So now we'll see if Snookin can toss one of the frag grenades down to try and get the bandit wires on the other side. Very courteous of Mockit to open that up, but it does look like an ADS grabbed it, and they'll have to burn it away as the skeleton key will open up that little window above the reinforcement. Hearing that flashbang go off, there we go. Snookin will toss the next one down, and it looks like it'll be quite successful. Trying to close this out and give his team the victory, Cripps will get kill number 1 on Nikori. The roaming Jaeger will be no more, as he will concede his map control that he had and force more pressure onto the attackers. Good news, or more pressure onto the anchors. The good news is that KS running that alibi and rips on Bandit still have a bunch of staying power there, able to possibly thwart any push from Chaos that comes out.
It's not good for Mockit to lose a player so early on. Chaos, you could see, not trying to push the issue too much, though. You can see sometimes when teams get an early advantage, they get too aggressive, and that's just not the case here. But Baka, what a shot onto Renewals, reading that push from the Blackbeard onto the Repel. Looks like outside of Astronomy window. He's also going to have this Yokai drone, which we'll see. You can see Cripps at the bottom of that staircase. Some good information there. Vale able to take out Snookin, so it's a fight back here from Mockit. They've managed to take out 2 now in a row with no response from Chaos. Here comes the phone calls, though, and the disruption from the Yokai drone. The last one from Baka will be no more. He managed to get 1 burst off, but that's just not enough. As Cripps takes out Rips, KS will shut him down. Astronomy given to the attackers too easily. Vale will get secretly, but Red Groove also in Astronomy. Aid will do a lot of damage. He's alone now in a 1 versus 2, and he just cannot make it work. Mockit win the final round, their first 2 in a row, and they manage to secure the draw.
So both of these teams will take 1 point. Not terrible for Mockit, but for Chaos, who need every point they can get. Sitting down in 7th is not necessarily a victory for them, especially when they look to be in pretty good control. They were sitting at 4 rounds to 2 and then lost 3 of the remaining 4 to prompt this draw. So Chaos unable to close it out and letting what should have been a pretty sufficient lead against Mockit slip through their fingers. And what ended up being as well a defender-sided contest with 6 rounds going to the defense, 4 to the attack.